From working at Furnish Finder, doing the podcast, obviously scaling your own business, what do you feel like has been, I mean, I'm sure there's a million factors, but one of the
Yeah.
biggest factors helping you scale so fast on purchasing side?
Yeah. I think something that people who are interested in getting into midterm rentals or are looking to scale, it's like this is a strategy that's very easy to pivot in and out of,
Mhm.
right? So the biggest disfavor you can do yourself is just not jumping in and trying it, right? Because we have data and we have things that you can research and due diligence on a potential property or a unit or whatever, right? But you're never going to learn as much as just getting in there and actually trying it. Like it's just kind of one of those experiences where it's like when you're thinking about an event and someone says, "Well, you just had to be there."
Right.
With midterms, I feel like it's like, "Well, you just have to try it." And if it doesn't work, you can transition to short term or you can transition to long term or you can even transition within the different realms of midterm, right? Maybe you go from a healthcare worker to a relocating family or a digital nomad. But I think there's just a lot of people who I see so much potential in, and I just want to shake them. And I just want to be like, just try it, right? Just try it. And you're going to have hiccups. You're going to have things along the way where you're like, why didn't I think of that beforehand? Or
Right.
why didn't I? But you can't beat yourself up like that. Like, you just have to keep pushing on and moving forward, but, like, you can't move forward if you're not in the ring.
Totally. And something that I've seen happen a lot, because same kind of thing. It's scary when you're first starting out because you don't
Yeah.
know, like, you don't know all the different types of people even coming. So you're like, well, what
Right.
if like travel nurses don't come to the area? It's like, well, there's other people that are going to come too. And
Yeah.
I found in my markets is since I'm already, or once I got my first one, I started seeing the inquiries come in. And just for that first one
Mhm.
alone, it helped me build my confidence to the second one, the third one.
Yes.
And then from there, like right now, I was telling you this before, my properties are full and I'm still getting these unmatched leads. I'm still getting like people reaching
Yeah.
out, like needing housing. And I'm like, that gives me more confidence to get the next one. But
Yes.
if I didn't start the first one, and I actually started kind of getting into midterm stuff, co-hosting other people's properties.
Mhm.
But if I don't know, if I didn't start that, it'd be, I can see why it's a challenge, but I
Right.
also tell people that the first property you buy is not gonna be, you might make, might be a great investment for you. It's not gonna be the
Right.
one thing that completely transforms your life, most likely.
Right.
For me, it's like a
Right.
good stepping stone. That makes sense.
I think the other thing people have to remember is people aren't out there bragging about their failures, right? I mean, we have one house that we purchased in Florida that I absolutely hate. I hate it. I hate it so much. But I can't sit here and say that I wish we never would have bought it because I've learned so much from it, right? So it's like we all have those.
Yeah.
And nobody's going to go through a pattern of investing or experience any length of time in investing and have like a perfect track record, right? But
Like,
that's how you learn. Like if you think of a toddler, they stand up, they try to walk, they fall down, they get back up, and then they get better and better and better, right? But you don't know what you don't know, and the only way to figure that stuff out is to get in the rink and start to play around,
totally.
right? Like that's the only way you can do it. And even the people who are very experienced are still making mistakes,
Oh yeah.
right? We're just not talking about them, but we're still learning from them. Like I had a few weeks ago, I had a tenant and she was so sweet, but she was like, "Hey, I just got a disconnect notice for the water on the front door." And I was like, "What in the heck?" And first I was like, "This makes me look so bad."
Yeah.
But then I was just like, "You know what? It was just an oversight, like the credit card on auto pay expired, whatever." She was super understanding, no big deal, but like you can't figure out all of those processes, all of those things without going through it,
Totally.
right?
Yeah. I've had several water turn off notification, and it's just like at the end of the day, the more stuff you have, those little things, they're
Yeah.
gonna get lost. So at the first time it happened to me, I was like, "How did this happen? Oh my god!" But
Yeah, you beat
then it
yourself
happened.
up.
Then it happened again, and I'm like, "Okay, I need to make sure that I've got these
Right.
checklists in place." And even when I have these checklists in place, I still make mistakes. I had a property I bought
Right.
last April, and I set up the gas. I set up, actually, no, the gas was one of the things that I forgot to set up, but that was on me, of course. And then I set up all the other utilities. Then about 10 months later, I get a some type of notification, email, maybe it was a letter and the tenant sent to me. I can't remember. But then I never hooked up the sewage. I never like signed up for the sewage billing. And I'm like, when you're buying a property, this was
right.
This is a Burr property too. So I was lining up contractors. I was handling an investor's money. All these things.
Yeah.
It's not that like, and people also worry about vacancies. Oh, what if I'm vacant for a week or two or a month? You're going to be like, there's going to be a time.
You are.
You're going to mess up.
Mm-hmm.
But it's for me, one of the things, because I used to be like, oh my God, I'm vacant for a week. Or, oh my God, I forgot to whatever. What I realized is like, this is such a long-term play. So if you're in it for like, I need to make a 50,000% cash return right now, it doesn't really make sense.
It's not your game, right? Yeah. It's not your game. It's not short term is where more cash flow is, right? But it's also like, it's a lot riskier and it's a lot more work. Yeah. I have one of my properties right now where I had a month gap, and we've talked to so many people about the hybrid method, short term, midterm, hybrid. And I was like, I'm really not interested in short term. The amount of work, like I've got a full-time job I love. My husband's got, like, we're all working, right? So having the ease of management is a really big thing. But I was like, I've got a month gap. Let me just try it. So I put a 5-day minimum, and I had 3 bookings, which I felt like was pretty solid for a month, like 15 days out of a month. It made it so we still cash flowed on that property, not a crazy amount, but like at least it wasn't just sitting vacant. Oh my God, it was so much work. Mm-hmm. It was so much work, and I never got the chance to screen the tenants. I never got the chance to talk to them. All I saw was like they had reviews or not and how long they had been on Airbnb. So like this whole month, I've been like on edge about that property. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be fine, but I don't like that feeling.
Totally.
Like I'm not in it. I am in it more for the long haul. And, you know, my husband and I were calculating, okay, when we start a new unit or a new property, how long does it take us until we get into the black? And it's not a month or 2. It's like 4 or 5 or 6 months. Yep. Right. But I'm like, well, that's fine. I'm not doing this for the money I put in as startup to get back tomorrow.
Right.
I'm doing it because it's maintainable and it's manageable. And usually, you know, you get a tenant in there, you screen them, you get them set up, get the lease signed. And I'm like, I won't hear from them for months on end. Yeah. So it's like a win-win.
Totally. Yeah. That's my favorite part. It just like having them in and then not worrying about it for a couple months at a time. Because I used to do all short-term rentals, and it
just stresses me out. Yeah.
And it's kind of a similar story you just mentioned. I have a triplex, and I had a traveling nurse book through Airbnb for one of my units, and then she was there for a week, and then after the week, I had someone coming in for 3 months. So I was like, it'll be great. But this travel nurse who was only in there for a week, she wanted to extend, and unfortunately, I didn't have longer for her to extend. But I did have another unit in that this sounds terrible. I mean, now I'm saying it. I had another unit in that triplex that was available for 6 nights. And honestly, I decided not even to tell her about it and just leave it vacant because the headache of, first of all, she was kind of a little bit of a headache to begin with. But I was calculating it. And after the cleaning fees and after you kind of factor in having to wash the towels and sheets again and all this stuff. Like I would make probably $200-300 from it. And that's probably right in my like way where I'm like, probably not. So I just left it vacant, honestly. Yeah. And I'm just going to wait for the next one who's paying a crazy amount of money. But you're right. Like the headache is sometimes not, I'd rather have a little vacancy than the wrong guest.
I ended up turning it off because I had 3 and I was like, I am done.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, okay, I've had 3, knock on wood, they've all been okay. But I was like, I don't want to have the nightmare. And I really like the fact that I get to, when I have a midterm tenant, like I make a point to call them or text them, or I'm like, I want to make sure that like you and I are okay with this relationship because then I can get a sense of like what your expectations are. I can tell you kind of how I run things.
Right.
I can't do that with a short-term rental.
Yeah.
Like it's more like, you roll the roulette wheel and whoever you get, you get. And I'm like, I have done enough gambling. Like I'm all set.